All right, welcome to the program, The Desk on Global Television, the program, the most compelling talk show on TV, where we look at very, very key issues making the rounds in Africa's biggest black nation, talking about Nigeria. We'll be looking at very sterling topics making the rounds. We'll be looking at the economic infractions which the Senate has said they were going to probe. We'll also be looking at other issues of national interest. That will be after we take a very short, quick break. And when we return, we'll be looking at issues that concerns the XY president, talking about President Muhammadu Buhari. We'll also be looking at issues playing out in the industrial dispute where the fuel transportation transporters have decided to halt their strike action. We'll be looking at Kano State closely, where the Kano State government has decided to unseal 10 warehouses that were, accused of hoarding food items. And we'll be going straight to Nasarawa State, where the government is trying to curb illegal mining. We'll also be looking at other issues concerning the IPOP leader, talking about Nnamdi Kanu, who will be going to have his day on court, looking at February 26th. This and other stories is what we'll be looking at. I'll be having my guest in the live studio, and also via Zoom. Via Zoom, we'll be joined by Chief Chike Okogu, who is the founder, Center for Ability, Rehabilitation and Empowerment. He is joining us via Zoom, and also we'll be having the NLC chieftain for information and publicity in the person of Benson Okpa. Will be live in the studio for the first 30 minutes. While the second 30 minutes, we'll be having Oche Emmanuel, who is a lawyer and activist, will be joining us on the second half of the program to look at all the big stories making the rounds. All this will unfold after we go for this quick break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back from the break, and it's now time for us to kick into action on the program, The the desk on Global Television, and like I told you, I've got in the live studios the head of information and public affairs of the Nigeria Labour Congress in the person of Benson Upah joining us.
Upah. My name is Upah, not
yes.
Upah.
Upah, U-P-A-H is the name Upah, joining us live in the studio. And we've got Chief Chike Okogu, who is the founder, Center for Ability, Rehabilitation and Empowerment, joining us via Zoom. Chief Chike, nice to know you're joining us via Zoom. All right, let's begin our discourse. Let's begin from the first talking point, where on Tuesday we had. Well, before we get into that discourse, just quickly, what has been the in terms of the NLC and the federal government, and also looking at the new minimum wage, the whole negotiation, how far and how well has it gone?
Well, a meeting held, and our preliminaries were sorted out. You know, it takes a process. You look at documents were presented and going to be looked at A to Z, at the end of it, based on what is tendered. An offer will be made, and a counter offer will be made. So it's after all of that we get to the final figure. But we've not gotten to that stage of offer and counter offer.
Okay. All right. So now you know what stage you are. So from I haven't gotten that brief as regards what Labour has, how far Labour has gone in terms of negotiating for the Nigerian worker, how much the new national minimum wage would be. You've heard from the horse's mouth, like they say. Benson Upah has told us that this is just the preliminary stages of negotiation. So hopefully in the coming days, weeks, and months, they'll be able to come out with the final details of the whole negotiation. All right, let's move on into the first talking point of the day, which has to do with the 30 trillion naira ways and means loans, which on Tuesday the Senate resolved to probe how the monies, the loans gotten from the Central Bank of Nigeria was obtained and spent by the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Talking about the ways and means is a loan facility through which the CBN finances government's budget shortfalls. The Senate stated that the reckless spending of the overdraft collected from the CBN under Godwin Emefiele largely accounted for the food and security crisis the country was currently facing. Do you agree with the Senate putting the blame on the doorsteps of former President President Muhammadu Buhari, that the fact that they spent 30 trillion naira, which wasn't approved by the Senate, is what has brought us to this stage where we are?
First, I have headlines here. You can see one here. There is another one here. Okay, so quite clearly, it is true that the Senate has indicated its interest to probe the government of President Muhammadu Buhari on the issue of 30 trillion ways and means. On this issue, I think we need to look at three major points here. The first one is to...
Okay, so my producer tells me you need to be more audible.
Okay.
So that, yeah.
So I think we need to look at 3 points here.
Okay.
I mean, the first is whether the Senate can give retroactive approval, because this money, I'm told, was spent.
Yes, already.
Before approval was taken, before a request was taken to the Senate,
yes.
To give approval. That is the first point. Then the second one is to ascertain whether the purpose for which this money was got was what it was used for. And the third is whether the proper or the improper use of this money is responsible for the present situation of
the country.
Of the country.
Okay.
To me, this will be the way.
The last question, point you raised is the senator said that's responsible for where we are today. Do you agree with the Senate?
Well, I'll first say that without probing, the Senate is already finding answers. And then why do they need to probe?
Okay.
So to me, I think the Senate is rushing to a hasty conclusion.
All right. Okay, we've got Oche Mane. We'd like you to sit up so that we can view you properly. Your positioning is not camera friendly. All right. Let's look at the discourse now. We're talking about the 30 trillion ways and means loans, which the Senate is saying is coming too late because the money has already been spent. That's what Aline Dume raised as something that's very saying that the Senate is acting illegally by wanting to even approve or look at this that was brought before it, since the money was already spent. And the Senate has already accused Buhari's government of putting Nigeria in the position they are because of the spending of this money. Who do you blame?
First of all, good evening, producer. Good evening, presenter. Good evening, Mr. Upa. I'm surprised that the Senate has become the mouthpiece of Tinubu's government. The Senate ordinarily ought to be busy with legislative matters. Unfortunately, they are the spokes organization for the executive and the government. They don't have any reason to blame the previous government. Don't forget that the Senate president himself was in the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. The Senate president has, Chief Godswill Akpabio has transformed into the Senate president. So if he is blaming Muhammadu Buhari's government, it's like a man who is pointing one finger at someone and then the other four are pointing back at him. The Tinubu government has a lot to do. Instead of blaming, when the Buhari government came on board, they first started by blaming the Jonathan's government. Today, the Tinubu's government is now blaming Buhari's government. What a trend, what a trajectory in Nigerian political administration. The blame should lie squarely on Tinubu's inability to handle the current economic challenge ought to tackle without looking back. Nigerians voted for him to come in and tackle the whole issues, which we believe he knows very well.
All right, I think we're having some
government by proxy. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I mean, Nigerians voted for President Tinubu because they thought that he had the capacity to lead them and not to blame, and not to heap blame on the previous government. By the way, Tinubu was part and parcel of the previous government by proxy, because he contributed to the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari. For me, I think the government of Tinubu should not blame the previous government. They should sit up and find a way to find a solution to our current quagmire. Or else, Nigerians are becoming restless, and that is not a good condition at all.
Okay, Benson raised a very important issue talking about does the Senate have the right to probe money already spent, which is technically supporting what Senator Aline Dume said, that it's wrong for the Senate to approve money already spent. You're a lawyer by training. How does this follow? Money already spent.
if not for the way Nigerian administration is run. Those who spend that money should be cooling off behind the bars. How could you approve money that have been spent? Why would the Nigerian what environment? Why would they spend money before they approve? It simply means that in the course, it simply means that this money was hurriedly packaged and spent because of superior interest. Those who stand to gain more than the generality of Nigerians. And it is very unfair. The Senate has no business approving money that has been spent. Money
So,
should not before they are approved. That is a procedure.
so should the anti-graft agency be investigating, or should the XY president be in the in the rooms of the anti-graft agency right now, talking about the EFCC and ICPC? Should ex-president Muhammadu Buhari be invited? Should he be talking to them right now?
He should be sitting with them, not just talking with them. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, no previous president has been prosecuted, even though once they leave office, they do not enjoy any form of immunity. But because of the way we operate our democracy here, one who occupies an office, even after he has left that office, is still seen and respected like somebody who is still occupying that office. We have heard, and there are names of retinue and panoply of former presidents in other countries, in Panama, in the US, even close by Kenya here and South Africa, where previous former presidents who are found to have run short of the law have been prosecuted and jailed. But in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, who should be sitting with the anti-graft agency, not just talking, he should be sitting with them because he should have an office there where he will be cooling off and answering questions. Nobody is going to invite him. Nobody is going to ask him any question. Not even a key officer of his government will be invited. We heard that the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs was invited by the anti-graft agency the other day. She didn't spend up to 6 hours with them. She left. Up to this moment, nobody is hearing anything about her anymore. This is the unfortunate situation we find ourselves as a nation.
All right.
Buhari's government pride itself as one of the government that came on board standing on the tripod of security, corruption, and economy. Unfortunately, leaving office and for Nigerians to find out that these are the humongous corruptions that have ensued under his watch, it's a huge disappointment and a complication of his state.
All right, let's look at, I know you're chieftain of the NLC. This is what the NLC lives and fights for the good of Nigerian worker and the masses. Looking at what is playing out now, is this one of the things the NLC would want to delve into?
Well, Tony, NLC has persuasive powers. But note, NLC has always championed the anti-corruption fight. In the past, we had mobilized on the streets to drive home the point of good governance and the need to eliminate corruption. Worst case scenario, minimize corruption. And we still stand by our clarion call that for any government to succeed, for Nigeria to be better, the cost of governance has to be drastically reduced. Corruption has to be eliminated too. So we will continue to champion this fight. But take note, as I said, the powers of NLC are largely persuasive. We are no prosecutors.
True.
We are no policemen, we are no jailers. Our force is a moral voice. So However, we will not be drawn into hasty conclusions. As my colleague on this panel, Mr. Chair has just said, you know, we, for us at the Congress, if President Buhari if President Buhari is to blame, the National Assembly also has their own blame.
All right.
So for me, I mean, the two parties, both the executive at that time and the parliament at that time, are to be held accountable. It will not be proper to only at this point in time say that President Buhari violated the law. In fact, as it is now, by virtue of what the Parliament, the Ninth Assembly did, he was cleared of any liability or culpability in terms of the violation of the rules of the game.
All right. All right.
But also, I must say this. I entirely concur with my colleague on this panel, Barrister Oche, that President Tinubu, in one of his addresses, in one of his earlier addresses, did say that he knew of the challenges of this job before he asked for it. That he took the job not to blame anybody, not to trade blames. And he went on. I wish I had come with those speeches because I have them filed, that his mandate was to create comfort, happiness for the people of Nigeria. Okay?
All right.
And suddenly now, the narrative is changing. I had said earlier on, wait, Tony, the narrative is changing, and that is not good. And that it's, that it is changing now. That that we're now, that the president and his team have resorted to blaming their predecessor is suggestive of one fundamental problem, that they may have run out of ideas.
All right, well said there. All right, let's have Chief Chike Okogu, who is the founder Center for Ability Rehabilitation and Empowerment, joining the discourse via Zoom also. Chief Chike, I know you've been listening to Oche Emmanuel, Barrister Oche Emmanuel, and also the Head of Information and Public Affairs of the NLC, who is here with us. Chief, let's get your take on what's playing out. Do you think the Senate is playing games here? Because Senator Aline Dume and Senator Mohammed Danjuma Goje were at each other's throats. Dume saying the Senate is acting illegally by even looking at this request, while Danjuma Goje is saying the Senate has the right to approve it even when the money is already spent. Who is fooling who?
This topic is, I don't even know where to start from. But let me quote the U.S. President, the current U.S. President, Joe Biden. He says, and I quote, "Corruption is a cancer that eats away at the fabric of society, undermining trust, eroding public confidence, and stifling economic growth." That was President Joe Biden, I just quoted. In all this, the blame game continues. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. We can hear you.
I'm actually Dr. Stephen. And let me also give a little background. You see on my background the 5 years Disability Act. I'm a person with disability. I'm a person with disabilities survived with spinal cord injuries 17 years ago. I'm a disability advocate. It's 5 years after the Disability Act, and we've been advocating that ignorance of the law of the Disability Act is not an excuse for people to discriminate against persons with disabilities. So please permit me for advocating with my background there. That is
it's allowed. It's allowed. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Others have dealt with this matter extensively. I concur with everything they have said. Starting from my brother in the NLC who said, who talked about President Bola Tinubu's promises that he didn't seek for this job or nobody should pity him, so he's not going to blame anybody and all that. But again, he owes us so much. So my brother who spoke earlier, the former president and his team should be in jail. I'm going to shake these people now. How do you, I mean, where do you, we are becoming a laughing stock. How do you spend money and then come back to the Senate after the money has been spent to now ask, I mean, looking at the big bags, you know, Senator Lindume will not, you know, he will say that it is. The big bags in the house was quite laughable. In the Senate, yes, it was too laughable. And it's gone viral. How will foreign investors take us serious? We're not talking of 1 million naira. We're not talking of 1,000 naira. We're talking of about 27 trillion. Give me a break. That is a whole lot of money. And what hurts the most in all this is that, you know, the whole thing that they have done and they are doing, we persons with disabilities are so angry because in a country with a budget of 28 trillion, what they are giving disabilities is 1 billion, 0.00001%. So you are telling us that even if there is a disability act, which is in my background there, that says at least 5%. At least 5% of whatever you do should accommodate persons with disabilities. They start by using corruption to eat into the budget that should take care of weak persons with disabilities. Back in the days, I think it was in 2002 that I wrote an article that was used on the editorial page of this day. And I think in that article, I accused and I still repeat that without when President Bola Tinubu and Mr. Osinbajo at that time indicated that they wanted to run for office, and I challenged them that in their manifesto, they did not take care of, they did not even mention people with disabilities. And if they had done, if they released a manifesto that did not take care of people with disabilities, then they are not ready for governance. It shows that, I quote again this time around, former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, he says, and I quote, that when you don't take care of your vulnerable people, which includes people with disabilities and people in prison, then that country and that government is not just anything but wicked. Because there is no compassion with our president today, there is no compassion in him. I say that I'm breaking tables. I'm already on a wheelchair, so I'm not fear anything. I'm in my 50s now. You can see gray hair all over my head. I'm not fear again. I'll stay as I feel. The president and his team, the former president and the current president, are taking us for a ride. This is not a joke. Everybody that was in that rubbish to go to jail.
All right, so Nigerians, we all agree that the former president, Muhammad Buhari, and his team and the Ninth Assembly should be facing the anti-graft agency and explaining in details how they spent the 30 trillion naira. All right, let's move to the next talking point. We've got the industrial dispute. Finally, we've got the fuel transporters hot their strike action after they met with the government and especially the Minister of State for Petroleum, Hanneke Lokubiri. Government has agreed to increase the freight rate for petroleum transporters and other issues. How sad is it that the government always have to wait for strike actions before they get the job done? Does this tell us that probably they're so alienated from the people, and that's why it's only when the people move into strike actions, the NLC and other groups, that's when they listen?
Well, if this question is from a Tony, I would say that the appropriate persons that this question should be directed to should be the government spokespersons. However, in the absence of the gentleman here with us in the studio, I will hazard an answer, and the answer will be that the government never knows, government like the debtor never knows, never ever thinks that the day of payment will come. Okay? The government just say, okay, we agree and decide, just to solve the problem of the moment, with little or no consideration for tomorrow. But beside that, we have a situation whereby government, deep in its heart, is not committed to what it agrees that it will do. So you look at insincerity, and insincerity leads to loss of confidence amongst the social partners. Okay? So, and what ordinarily, I mean, the social partners may have to listen to government. They don't, because of government's serial act of breach of agreements. So it is up to government now to build on or to rebuild its image.
Do you think this present government can do that, especially when the Federal High Court in Lagos just a week ago did give them an order to have price control on fuel and other goods in the country, courtesy of the suit filed by Femi Falana, and but this order wasn't respected by the federal government. Instead, the president comes out to say there's not going to be any price control board. He's not going to put prices on food items and petrol. Does this tell us how will you describe the federal government's attitude?
Well, I mean, the government can repair its image if it has the will, if it demonstrates, if it has the capacity, if it really musters the
Does
will.
this government have it?
This government, like others before it, has the option of generating its will and repairing its own public image as a government that adheres or as a government that implements agreements it voluntarily enters into, as a government that respects decisions of the court.
Has this government done that?
So it is up to the government to do this. If it does not do this, it will have to live with the stigma of a government that obeys decisions of the court in breach, and that is not good. As a government that does not respect the content of any agreement, that is not also good for its image. So this will also affect its global image and ranking, and it will also affect the inflow of investments. As for the decision of the president to say, well, it will not obey fixing of prices and all of that, well, it is in line with his...
Renewed Hope agenda?
Well, no, don't put words in my mouth. It is in line with his fundamental market agenda, liberalism. You know, if you recall, up to the mid-80s, we had the marketing boards,
yes,
or commodity boards,
yes,
price, whatever. But with the advent of market fundamentalism, those things were removed. I think it was President Ibrahim Babangida who removed the commodity boards to pave way for the entry of the market economy. From then, it's been from one liberal economic policy to another.
Okay.
Until the point now where the only thing left to be sold is the soil of Nigeria.
All right, let's have Chief Chike delve into the conversation before Oche Emmanuel helps us out with his legal perspective. Do you think this government has the interests of Nigerians, and do you think they obey court orders? Before we enter into the next talking point, which has to do with Nnamdi Kanu's trial.
You see, like I said earlier, the whole thing is sounding like a joke. Court orders, the government, I mean, we have seen governments that don't respect court orders. But leave court orders aside, just like my big brother Ben just mentioned, and you ask him, why is it that it is only when there are strikes that government begins to sit up to do the right thing? One of my teachers in school said, we all know the right thing to do, but doing the right thing is always our average. Nigerian government, successive governments have never been truthful to the people. I recall my days in Shopee. That was in 2012, under Dr. Christopher Collard. I was a member of that board. And when we introduced the ethics of good governance, I remember what he said to us, that we must earn the trust of the people. And the only way you can earn the trust of the people is by delivering on your terms of reference. So when people get into office, look at how it is in Nigeria today. The president took an oath, all of them took oath of office to give us good governance. That's all we asked for. We didn't ask that the naira became the dollars. And why is the naira changing the dollars today? Because of corruption. Where on earth you can open parallel market? I tell you, if I want $10 million today, with the right price, I'll give you $10 million cash in Nigeria today. Cash in dollars. We are a crazy nation. So whatever court processes or court orders that they are bringing, governments have been known to flag court orders. So it doesn't change anything. Fixing prices and controlling prices does not.
All right, we lost a ticket there. Okay, Oche Emmanuel, are you there? Oche Emmanuel, are you still with us? All right, I think we lost them. Hopefully they'll join us. Let's delve into dollar hits 1,900 naira to a dollar, and for pound it's 2,250 naira. Does this? Can we also still say this is part of the effect of what the Senate is saying and the reasons why we have industrial dispute where fuel transporters had to go on strike before the federal government intervened?
Tony, let truth be told. While it can be argued that for our present state of the economy, there are long-term, mid-term reasons.
Okay.
There are equally immediate reasons. And one of the immediate reasons is the massive devaluation of our currency by President Tinubu. He devalued the naira on a scale that never before happened. Okay? In the name of merging exchange rates. Okay? He did that. At the time he did this, the national debt stock rose from 72 trillion to 81 trillion. As we are now, I do not know what it is because I'm completely confused. You understand? It also raised the percentage of the money that will be used to service this debt. Okay, so everything changed, completely changed. So I can tell you that, in summary, I can tell you that the immediate causes of our present situation are the mindless devaluation of the naira by this administration, the removal of subsidy without preparation. These are the fundamental reasons, these are the immediate reasons why we are where we are. And no one should attempt to divert our attention by taking us back. Okay? If we fall for it, we only have ourselves, to blame. Don't misunderstand, the point I'm making. I am not saying that the approval given to President Buhari on the 30 trillion. I'm not saying that that approval coming retroactively followed the law. It did not. At the same time, but I'm saying that we should be bold enough. Those who are heaping the blame on him today entirely are missing the point.
All right.
And it is a strategy to divert our attention from our present challenges. Our present challenges as they are caused by two faulty policy decisions. The mindless devaluation of the Naira and the removal of subsidy without preparation.
All right, well said there. Let's hit the next, for the want of time, let's move to the next talking point. We've got the Kanu trials that begins February 26th, and also there's a big story coming from Benue State where it's alleged financial misconduct. Benue Assembly sacks 3 local government chairmen for financial infractions and criminal activities, according to the governor Hyacinth Alia, who wrote a letter to the House of Assembly. Chairman, let's quickly delve into this. Federal government resumes trial of self-appointed leader of IPOP, Nnamdi Kanu, trial that resumes again.
Well, thank you. No suspect should be kept behind the bars illegally. No suspect should be kept behind the bars forever. There must be an end to every trial. Sure. And so, in the case of Kanu Nwako, Nnamdi
Kanu, yes,
it is not an exception. He's been tried over a series of allegations. The trial has been very slow. Of course, terrorism and other miscellaneous offenses, as far as the laws are concerned, require a lot of proof. I expect that Tinubu, having resumed with the trial, the court should expedite action on the trial, and if it's found wanting, a sentence should be passed so that he can begin to serve his sentence accordingly. Continuous detention of Nnamdi Kanu without sustaining the momentum of trial is becoming a violation of his rights. And so I think at this moment, at this second phase of his trial in a second administration, they should apply for fast trial, and the court should sit and do justice to these matters before the people become so tired and then ask for judgment in their own.
Okay, Chairman, let's look at the back and forth of this trial. At a point, there was this rendition from Kenya to Nigeria, and it took the appeal court to, based on this illegal way of bringing him back to the country without going through the extradition process. The Court of Appeal, dropped some charges. Out of the 15 charges, some were dropped, 8 charges were dropped. But later on, we had the Supreme Court come back to, overturn. Okay, a court actually did discharge and asked for him to be released on bail. But the Supreme Court came back to overturn the judgment of the lower court in favor of the government. Justice Garba Lawal saying that the fact that there was a rendition from Kenya to Nigeria did not give them the courts the right to drop all charges. What do you think is going to play out this time around? Are we going to see hanky-panky or technicalities? And do you think there's a time to probably bring peace to the southeast region of the country?
Well, as a lawyer, I've been following all this matter since it began. I know there hasn't been any hanky-panky per se. The hands of the law might be slow, but gradually it gets to its destination. What has happened so far is the different security arms trying to ensure that their investigation is up and evidence is properly laid. Now, don't forget that the activities of Nnamdi Kanu in the southeast was in the form of trying to declare a state within a state, I mean a nation within a nation. And that is fundamentally calling for secession in this country. It goes to the very fundamentals of the Constitution. The Constitution as we have it today is a grunom upon which every other laws are formed. So the offenses for which Kanu is being tried for, they are grievous. They are as heavy as the heaviest rod you can find around your environment. And so the Court of Appeal erred in law to have dropped some of those charges because wherever Kanu was gotten from, Kanu needed to come to Nigeria to face charges because his continuous incitement of the people of Southeast was resulting in an insurrection, and he was leading a strong militia group that were attacking, killing, and maiming the people of the Southeast and at large the Nigerian people. And of course, you know, in the matter of Asari Dakubo and the state, the law is settled that when national security is at threat, fundamental rights take a second place. So in this case, Kanu cannot be complaining about fundamental rights, wrongful repatriation to Nigeria and all of those. The essence of him coming to Nigeria is to answer the questions, and that was why the Supreme Court has to overturn the judgment of the Court of Appeal and ask Kanu to face the law as it were.
All right, we've just got 5 minutes to wrap it up, so I'd like you to wrap up that your point of view, please. All right.
Yes, I mean. Yes,
okay, quick one. Let me just stay with you quickly. The Benue State House of Assembly has sacked 3 local government caretaker committee chairmen over financial infraction and criminal crimes, according to Governor Hyacinth earlier. But some stakeholders in Benue believe that this was just a setup because they've already got it, Tavese Agbe, Gideon Hanongon, and also Francis 3 men in Boko local government, Ukum and Katsina Ala. Some are saying this is more like trying to give job to the boys and just replacing people. And this has just been an accusation. That's your state, and accidentally, I think that's the state of Benson Upa here. So can I quickly get one minute each of your take as regards this issue?
Well, let me start by reciting the old military maxim of soldier go, soldier come, barrack remain. Those who were sacked were there, they have gone, others have come in. The local government leadership remains. Okay. For me, the allegation against the sack caretaker committee chairman it is akin to giving a dog a bad name before you hang it. I do not want to go into those things, but they should not just be sacked. If that allegation is true, they should not just be sacked. We want to see them in court. Okay. They should also investigate and prosecute them. But when we don't see them in court, then we know that that allegation was a mere political excuse. And I wish them good luck.
All right, so looking at the 3 local governments, how key are these local governments? Katsina Ala, we know they faced a lot of insecurity issues. Boko also, there were lots of killings. Shouldn't the government be considering some other factors rather than these issues before you change leadership in such sensitive areas?
Well, Tony, I agree with you on the importance of the local governments, the 3, because they are among the most populous in Benue State. But if there is a problem, if there is a criminal complaint, or a criminal complaint was investigated and found to be true, of course, I mean, the issue of the importance of the local government of those 3 becomes immaterial. It is the criminal content that will be the subject matter. However, as my brother Oche Emmanuel has said, if this stops at accusation and removal without
Prosecution.
reaching the court. It means that there is something fishy. And which brings me to the kernel of the matter. We have been advocating for the autonomy of the local governments.
True.
And the governors have consistently objected to that. So long as governors continue to interfere with the administration of local government councils, there can be no stability, there can be no progress, there can be no development. Once local governments run afoul, crime rates will go up. In those days, in the days of the native authority system and so on and so forth, when the local governments, or when the native authority governments had autonomy,
yes,
crime rate was minimal because everybody knew everybody. So, the local governments are the closest tier of government to the people. Why would the governors seize them? The governors, as it were, have already cornered at the parliament, at the judiciary. They routinely emasculate through improper funding.
Yeah.
The three key institutions at the state level.
All right.
The governors have seized everything, and they still want police.
All right.
They want police. So I tell you this. We are heading for trouble. So, but I will round up my comment by saying, give autonomy to the local government councils, and all this wahala will stop. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if Chief Chike is still with us, so that we can get his views, so that we don't leave him out hanging. Chief Chike, are you still there? Okay, he's not around. All right, we're wrapping up our discourse. Just to let you know, Customs, the Controller General of Customs, Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, says seized food items will be shared to Nigerians, but he didn't say when or how it was going to be shared. Just a quick one from you. He said they're going to test to see certify if the food is good for consumption before it's shared. Are you expectant of something good coming out of this?
First, when were these food items seized?
Okay, good questions.
Where were they seized? You remember during the palliative intervention
yes,
in President Buhari's time, some of the rice that
they were supposed to be given out,
some of the grains of rice given out,
were spoiled.
Were not fit for
consumption,
for animal consumption. They had overstayed in warehouses and all of that. So, one. But fundamentally, why were these
food items seized?
Food items seized? Were they seized in the course of smuggling, or they were seized in the course of people wanting to do legitimate business? Because it is within our right to buy food commodities in Nigeria and sell across the border. It's not an offense as long as the right procedure or the right rules are followed.
All right, Ocha Emmanuel, your final word.
Yes, thank you for this last word.
Yeah, but for the last words, I want you to look at the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, who threatened major cement manufacturers that they were going to open the borders for cements to come in if they don't reduce their prices.
Well, thank you very much. Let me start with that. Okay. The Minister of Housing knows very well that government is complicit in the skyrocketing prices of commodities, particularly even cement. If opening of the borders will make availability of cement possible and cheaper, why would they not do it? Why are they deliberately empowering Dangote and Bua and other manufacturers to extort Nigeria at this perilous and critical time? If that will bring succor to Nigeria, why would they not hurriedly do? Do they need permission of the manufacturers to do that? Government is complicit. Tinubu must sit upright. Having said that, Let me go to the issue of food that was arrested by custom. Let me say it is a mere smoke screen. They are not going to distribute any food. They are just using that to detract, to distract our attention. Do not mind the government. They
All
are
right.
deliberately stealing Nigeria and frustrating the efforts of Nigeria.
All
But
right,
there's a limit to there's a limit to which they can stretch Nigeria. A time will come, everybody will run to the street looking for food to eat. Then government will sit up straight.
All right, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Chair Emmanuel, a lawyer and an activist, and also Chief Chike Okogu, founder of the Center for Ability, Rehabilitation and Empowerment. Thank you for joining us via Zoom. And I must say big kudos to the head of information and the public affairs of the Nigeria Labour Congress, no other person but Benson Upa, who has been superb leading the line of, doing analysis of all the big talking points we shared on today's evening. Always a pleasure having you, and thank you for the mighty experience and analysis. All right, so that's how we're going to call it a wrap on today's edition of the program, The Desk. My name is Anthony Momodu, saying thank you for always being part of the program. Join us again tomorrow for another exciting edition. Good evening.